Hello, you malty Mortlach munching masticators. I'm Ralphie, in the bothy, somewhere in the Irish Sea, and a big thank you for the malt mention to Glen Forbes 20. Thank you, Glen Forbes 20. And the whisky I'm reviewing today, because this channel's about whisky reviews, it's what I do in this nice little stone shed of mine, somewhere in the middle of the Irish Sea, on an island called the Isle of Man, but its traditional Gaelic name is Ellen Vannin, right? Ellen Vannin, which historically in medieval times got confused with Avalon, Ela Avalon. There you go. So there could be a connection between this island that I'm living on and the Knights of the Round Table in the court of King Arthur of legend. Not that I've noticed any stones needing pulling out, any swords needing pulling out of stones. Round where I am, I spend most of my time pulling corks out of bottles, which is a lot easier. And anybody can do it. This is Kilkerran 16-year-old. It's bottled at 46%. And it says in the back of the label, because it needs to say it in the back of the label to have any credibility, because I'm not phoning distilleries, I'm not emailing distilleries to find out and then get these kind of basically polite but dismissive answers. It says it on the label, no added colouring and not chill filtered. Fantastic. This is an integrity whisky, so we're off to a good start. The Kilkerran single malt is a little bit unusual in that it's not named after the distillery. The distillery that Kilkerran comes from is called Glengyle Distillery, and it's slap bang next door to Springbank Distillery in Campbelltown. And people in the know sometimes call Glengyle Distillery Springbank Part 2. And the way this whisky is developing, now that it is maturing and coming of age, is really quite impressive, and it deserves the accolade. You can find this whisky as an 8-year-old, a cask strength, a 12-year-old, and the 16-year-old. I'm reviewing the 16-year-old for you today because, in my opinion, my humble little malt moment opinion, it's arguably one of the best versions. There you go. So I'm going to smell it, going to taste it, tell you a little bit about it, add some water, and then tell you more about this distillery and its history. As soon as you put your nose to it, you're getting this richness. It's a rich barley sugar grain sour. So this is a barley spirit driven experience that you only get when distilleries are taking slightly lower alcohol yields from the grain that they are using and replace it with flavour yields. And it's it's not rocket science. And you'll notice with experience the distilleries that actually do so, because the first contact that you have, particularly with your nose, is one of richness and density of flavour that you can tell is just going to unravel and open up once you add a little drop of water. So let's go with the first taste. You could easily drink this neat, but if you really want all the flavour range, for goodness sake, add a little water. Just saying. A glorious sweet and sour barley. There's lemon oil, pineapple conserve. There's a real rich sultana, dense sultana note, almost date like medjool dates. That sort of density and slight dry syrupy note. There's a little bit of banana in the background, some ginger as well, some fresh ginger and ginger jam, and this is only in the first sip. The finish is a little bit abrupt, but you get that with these higher strength, higher alcohol whiskies, which need to kind of unravel a little bit to deliver some more of what they've got. So the finish is lemon oil, a little bit of ginger, powdered ginger, a little bit of ginger jam, a little bit of pineapple conserve. That barley sugar note is that slight umami. It turns umami into the development and really just crisp, delicate and fresh into the finish. There we go. I won't give you any more than that. That's enough to go on. I'm going to add a full spoon, 5 millilitres of water to this. The measure is approximately your standard pub measure, which is 25 millilitres. Okay. I'm just going to leave that sitting for a few minutes. Remember, it's a minute in the glass, giving you the knowledge for each year in the cask. So while it's sitting there opening up, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Glengyle Distillery, because not that long ago it was just an abandoned, dilapidated building, but it was taken over in 2000 by the Springbank Distillery Company, AJ Mitchell, sorry. There we go. And you can see it, Mitchell's Glengyle Limited. There we go. So now you know. And they had to gut the place. I mean, seriously, gut the place. It was full of nothing but agricultural equipment, pigeons and cobwebs. And when they did, they actually bought a couple of stills from the north of Scotland from what used to be the Benvivis distillery, which produced briefly and is a very obscure collectible whisky because it's not very good. Benvivis was a bit of a laughingstock, to be honest, in its when it was bottled. There's a few old versions, but it never succeeded. And in fact, when Springbank brought the stills down to Campbelltown, one of the first things they did was they appraised its proportionality and made adjustments to it, so as that it had what's called perfect ratio. And then once they'd done that, they started producing whisky. After a few years, now this is in 2004 by the way, that's when they launched it, and I remember it because I was there at the time. I had a busy year in 2004, and I went down and I thought, my goodness, this is small. Is anybody going to be bothering with this? Because nobody will have heard of Kilkerran. But hey, history is history, and it is written by authors unknown. So Kilkerran really has come of age. It started out when it was first available as work in progress. So it was kind of a bit rough and ready and raw, but it had substance of character. So the malt mates, right, in the know, right, could tell that just give this time and a bit of time, it's going to be an absolute banger in a few years. In the same way that people regard Ardnamurchan at the moment as really a great whisky on its way in preparation. And the same with Loch Lee and Wolfburn, another good example. And Isla Rassay. These are the kind of real standout ones. And it has come of age. Here it is. We're over 16 years later. Got the 16-year-old. It was kind of hard to get. You can readily find the 12-year-old more than the other versions, but the cask strength version is really good. And this, in my opinion, is the absolute banger. And for what it is, it's not absurdly expensive. And it's an integrity whisky. This is a malt sipper's whisky. And because it doesn't have the cachet of Springbank, at the moment anyway, it's being left alone by the scavengers. Yeah, I went and said it. I've added water, it's become, there's more some soft melon notes, little touch of soft guava in there. It's really becoming so much more elegant. A little bit of fresh white grape juice notes going on too. The nose has changed completely with the water. And of course, being at 46%, it's just absorbed that water straight into it, and now it's beginning to open up. Long, clean, zesty, slightly tannic, complex, barley grain rich arrival, glorious arrival, clean, dense and complex. The development, a little bit of gingery comes in, a little bit of almost pickled pineapple and peach conserve. Right. I'm just telling you what I'm getting. It's not necessarily what you're getting. I'm just telling you what I'm getting. And it's just, the length is lengthening significantly due to the addition of some water. It's bringing the flavour out, and it's kind of opening it up beautifully. Basically, the whiskey's unravelling in the glass due to the addition of some clean, fresh, settled tap water, because I just use tap water where I am, because it's soft water. Wonderful, almost toffee-ish barley sugar. Beautifully sweet and sour. Never too sweet, never too sour. The development, it's got that little bit of heat in it, gentle soft heat. Pineapple jam, ginger, powdered ginger, that's dried ginger, some fresh ginger, so it's quite ginger complex but restrained with it. You're getting some melon, Chantorey melon. Sorry, honeydew melon. It's not Chantorey, it's honeydew melon. And you're getting a little bit of lime pickle going on. As we're heading into the development, it just sustains beautifully. It holds the theme of the subsequent development from the arrival. It holds it right through to the finish. Nothing fades, and over time what will appear is that just a little bit more cask influence, adding a light tannic note which complements the gingeriness as you go into the finish and deliver something long, beautiful, crisp, clean and frankly delightful. There we go. That's my tasting notes. It's one of these whiskies you really hold on your palate and you don't want to let it go. It lingers beautifully, really coats the tongue. It sparkles with a little bit of citrus on the side of the tongue. That sweet, dry, sour complexity. It never diminishes. It never sort of simplifies over time. Wonderful stuff. I better give this a malt mark, to be honest, before I get too lyrical about this. It's a phenomenal whiskey. It's as good as Springbank. There you go. 87 out of 100. It's a malt mark. Malt mates, malt moment done. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's my review of 16-year-old Kilkerran. A lovely, lovely, highly Ralphie recommended single malt from Glengyle Distillery, which is going to continue to reward us for the years ahead for one very simple reason. It is owned by a distillery company who really, really, really know how to make good whiskey. And they are not cutting corners to cut costs, to deliver some homogenized, simplified, sanitized version that unfortunately too many other brands are doing, which is why you will find them on the discount shelves at the end of the year on Amazon and in supermarkets, but not Kilkerran. You're not going to find Kilkerran in supermarkets. I would be very surprised if you do. This is for the people in the know, the people who understand whiskey, the people who go whiskey hunting, looking for diamonds, because there's diamonds to be found. Just saying. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. leave your comment. I'll see you soon. Be back shortly with Ralphie Review 976 extras. 976 extras, in which I will be talking about creating your to-do list. Because it's got to that stage, we need one.